stuff at the bottom, and we had about an hour to whip it up, so we'll be doing some, I don't know, cooler things later on, but that's what we got. We're live. Today is Sunday, June 8th, 2008. This is the Atheist Experience. As I mentioned, we're sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. The ACA has weekly meetings every Sunday at Romeo's on Barton Springs Road beginning at around 11:30, except for the first Sunday of the month when we host a lecture series at the Austin History Center, located at the corner of 9th and Guadalupe. I'm going to kind of shorten up our announcements. One of the things we're going to end up doing once we get the rest of the CG stuff worked out is have kind of a more visual display, which will shorten up the announcements even more. But welcome back. How you been?
Great, thank you.
We are live every week, but I think you got skipped, didn't you? Did you get?
I don't know if it was me.
Well, there was the week that they were doing the renovations, and I don't know, it just seems like 18 million weeks since I've seen you.
Okay.
So. Welcome. As I mentioned, we're sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin. For more information about the Atheist Community of Austin, you can go to the website, www.atheist-community.org. To get a hold of those of us involved in the TV show, you can email the address at the bottom of your screen, tv@atheist-community.org. The audio portion of this program is available for download as a podcast from the ACA website, and the video portion is available to watch at Google Video. There's more information at our website. In addition to this program, the ACA also sponsors a bi-weekly internet audio podcast called The Nonprofits. That's PROPHETS. You can go to nonprofitsradio.com for more information about that program. For those nonprofits listeners who are basically sitting at home going, yeah, what the hell's going on? Originally, we were supposed to have shows on the 7th and 21st. We moved that to the 14th and 28th because some things came up that prevented the show on the 7th. And then we realized that the Austin Pride Festival is the 14th, and so we won't be able to do a show then. So we moved the 14th show back to the 7th, but we still couldn't do it on the 7th. So anyway, the next nonprofit show is going to be the 28th, although we may try and get something up in between for the addicts who are wondering why they have to go more than a month without a new nonprofits episode. In addition to both of these programs, the ACA hosts a lecture series on the first Sunday of the month. You can find out more information about that at the website as well. And after this program's over, everybody involved gets together for dinner, and we're going to El Arroyo. The information's on your screen. We're on the air from till about 4:30. At 5 o'clock or so, we'll head down to 5th Street to El Arroyo. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come to any of our events. Membership's not a requirement, but if you're coming down to preach, proselytize, or provoke, please don't. We'll have a telephone number up on the screen for you shortly, and you'll be able to call in. It is a live show. We take calls live. Anybody's welcome to call in about anything. It could be the topic we're discussing or something else. In particular, tell us, what you believe and why, or why you think anybody else should. We'll be happy to answer questions about atheism, the ACA, pretty much whatever you want to ask. Just be prepared that some of the answers may be, I don't know. Which I realize is very uncomfortable for some people. So uncomfortable that they're happier believing some fairy tale that seems to answer the question than just admitting, we don't know everything yet. But the time to believe something is when the evidence is there. And on some of these questions, some of these issues, and some claims, the evidence simply isn't there. And if you think you have the evidence, we'd certainly like to hear about it. So. In addition, if you go to the ACA website, there's also a frequently asked questions page. You can go there to find out the answers to some of the questions that we answer quite a bit. And I think, apart from letting members know that the ACA Solstice Party is on the 21st, and there's more information about that on the website as well. I think that'll about kill off all the announcements in under 5 minutes.
That's pretty good.
I've gone much, much longer sometimes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I need to put up the unpaused bars for the people who fast forwarded.
Oh, okay.
Now we're starting with the show.
Hey, that's great.
I know.
So you've been doing a sign?
It started last week as a quick little visual cue, but I think now that we've got better graphics, I don't know, it may change. You may be able to notice that when the graphics change from like red to blue or pink or purple.
Well, that's great.
So let me adjust. You can't see Muhammad. Muhammad, our holy cow, is monitoring the phones for us, and he'll be waiting your call anxiously very soon.
All right, well...
So what are we talking about?
Today we're talking about Batman Begins.
The movie.
The movie.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. And Batman Begins is a modern retelling of the Sodom and Gamorrah story. And so before we get going talking about the film script, I want to talk a little bit about Sodom and Gomorrah because not everybody who contacts us is familiar with their Bible or familiar with Bible stories. So I want to make sure that people understand the Bible story so that when we get into the film, they have an idea of how it parallels.
Okay.
So basically, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is that God goes down to visit Abraham with a couple of angels. And this is in, if anybody wants to go look it up, it's Genesis 18, 20 to 33 is where the story plays out. God goes and he's been visiting with Abraham along with a couple of angels that he brought with him. And he decides at some point, you know, there's something I probably should tell Abraham. And he asks the angels, should I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? And Abraham will surely, anyway, he ends up explaining to Abraham that there was an outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah that's so great and their sin is so grievous that he's going to go down and see if what they've done is as bad as the outcry that reached him. And if not, he's going to know when he goes and checks it out. Yeah. Which, you know, that in itself is kind of funny. Because,
yeah, there's a number of things right there at the beginning that make you wonder, because you hear, you know, in the various characteristics of God that people proclaim. One is, well, omniscience. So clearly he should know what's going on, shouldn't have to go down and check. Right. But why should he have to get approval from, or inform Abraham?
Well, just as an aside, I would like to mention that I'm currently reading the Iliad. And it's interesting because the gods are involved in the battle. You have like all the Greek gods like Athena and Aphrodite and Ares and Apollo are all involved in this battle. And there are times when they have to go and figure something out, or they have to go and find out something, or they want to find out something. And so it's very similar. It's not unusual for, historically, for a god to not know everything. Really, it's just a super powerful idea of a super powerful being, mainly an immortal being.
Right. It's something that's glommed on. It's not like anywhere in the Bible the word omniscience is even mentioned.
Except it does say, you know, I know when every sparrow falls. I knew you before you were born. I mean, there's all these little hints that.
So you kind of interpolate from what's written in there that, oh, well, then God knows everything. If he knew me before I was born and knew the number of hairs on my head, clearly he knows everything.
There is certainly the implication there from some of the Bible writers, but then there's other Bible writers who, like this particular story, which I'm of the opinion that this story is written by somebody who enjoys a bawdy tale, and that he follows up with Lot and his daughters. And I think that there's supposed to be an element of humor in this story, although that's not the way it's normally preached. When it goes on, Abraham hears that God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, the problem with that is that Abraham has a nephew who's living down in Sodom. And so, of course, Abraham is very concerned. And I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but the scene that follows is an extremely stereotypical, almost offensively stereotypical Jew portrayal, where Abraham bargains with him. He's going to barter. And it's like, well, he plays on God's pride, and he says, he says, let's see, Abraham approached him and said, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? So in other words, he's basically saying like, oh, you know, Matt, I know your character, and you would never do such a thing. Like, I mean, you know, you're...
Clearly you wouldn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The city can't be that bad.
So he's playing here on sort of like, you know, aren't you the God who's righteous and just, and surely you would not do such a thing. And really it's, you know, his polite way of saying, you know, don't do this. And so then God says, yes, if I find 50 righteous people, because you're asking me, I would spare the city. So Abraham now, in the stereotypical Jewish fashion, says, well, now, since I've been so bold as to speak to you this way, I mean, basically, since I brought it up and since I spoke already, I know I'm nothing but dust and ashes, but since we're having this conversation, what if the number of righteous people is 5 less than 50? Will you still destroy the whole city? And God says, well, if there's 45, I'll still save the city. Well, this goes on for quite a while, where you know, he's bartering him down. I'm not going to use the term.
You did an Atheist Eve cartoon one time where what was your faith number based on how many people you killed.
Right.
And this is kind of the inverse of that, where Abraham's kind of saying, Well, you know, if you're willing to spare it for 50, I mean, wouldn't you spare it for 45? I mean,
Right.
So we're basically whittling God down to find out what the minimum number of righteous people in a town is before he'll say, nope, we'll go ahead and destroy them all.
Right, but it's just such a humorous bartering, like the way he barters it down. It's almost like you can see somebody holding up a thing and going, oh, what, 50 shekels for this?
5 for that? You must be mad.
Yeah, exactly. And so it goes down, and so finally what happens is they get it down to 10. And then God sends the 2 angels. I don't know what happens, but at some point God disappears, and then it's just the 2 angels go forward.
See, this is part of the problem here, is that Abraham bartered him down to 10 and then stopped.
Right.
Whereas if I was doing it, I'd keep going until we got down to 1.
Well, then there's Lot, so then it's saved.
Well, yeah. I mean, that would be the whole point. You know?
Right, so it's okay to kill the 10 righteous people. I mean, of course, I'm guessing all the infants would be.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about somebody who supposedly drowned the whole world except for 8 people, so, you know, what's
Anyway, the 2 angels go down to Sodom, and they go and get Lot, and it turns out that, I'm guessing that they couldn't find the 10 righteous people. Or you never really see how that plays out. I mean, I don't think there's ever a point where God says, I couldn't find the 10 righteous people. It just says that the 2 angels go down to Sodom and Gomorrah, and they go into Lot's house, and they tell him that, let's see. Well, that's when the people come. Like, so all the men of the city come. Yeah. And that's kind of a bawdy little scene where, you know, apparently all the people, I can see the storyteller just telling this and everybody's drunk and cracking up, but it's like, okay, and so then all the men of the city come out and they are surrounding the house and they are telling Lot, bring out these 2 men that came to visit so that we can have sex with them. So all the men of the city apparently have decided they want to have sex with these 2 guys, and that's the motivation. Lot goes outside to meet him, and he says, oh, don't abuse my guests. I've got a couple of virgin daughters that you can have instead. How about that? So they turn him down. Anyway, I'm not going to spend too much time. The point isn't really Sodom and Gomorrah, but they go and they get Lot, and they say, we're taking you out of the city. The city is marked for destruction. And Lot, you know, is just like, well, they don't believe him.
Lot is the only righteous person in the whole,
the
only person worth saving.
Him, his daughters, and his wife is killed on the way out.
Well, evidently, I'm not so convinced that, you know, maybe the daughters and the wife were part of a package deal. They weren't particularly righteous, but Lot was, so they got to come along.
The daughters' betrothed were invited to come along, but because they didn't believe, the angels just said, come on, and they end up grabbing the people and just dragging them out. So it doesn't even come that they, you know, convince them or anything. The angels just grab them by the hand and yank them out and drag them out.
So wait, his virgin betrothed daughters is who he offered up to the crowd.
Correct.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so anyway.
He's truly a righteous man, though. I mean, the best example of the most righteous man in Sodom is a guy who's willing to offer his daughters up to a crowd.
But the main point that I'm trying to make...
And then later on gets drunk and has sex with both of them.
The main point that I would make here is just that the basic story of Sodom and Gomorrah is a story about a god, a powerful god who's going to destroy a city, and the man who comes to him and says, you know, can I stop you?
Right.
Can I stop you from doing this if I tell you, what if there are good people in this city? You can't do it if there's good people in the city. And the god basically says, you know, if there's a lot of good people, I wouldn't do it. If there's not that many, I'm still going to do it. The city is so overwhelmed with corruption that the balance of good to evil is really not the point. There's just, I need to destroy the corruption, and if it takes down the good with the bad, everybody dies. End of story. So then we get to Batman Begins. And Batman Begins is a modern tale of a powerful villain who is going to destroy a city. And you have a guy that's trying to stop him who makes the plea directly in the script that there are good people here. Surely you can't believe in this. There are good people in this city. And yes, we have an obligation to go and fight the bad people in the city who are harming people, but not if it means destroying the good. And unlike Abraham, the way the characters diverge and what makes it more of a modern interpretation is that Bruce Wayne actually doesn't back down. So where Abraham says, you know, I won't go lower than 10, I go to 10, and okay, you won't destroy it if there's 10. Bruce Wayne basically is just like, as long as there's good people in that city, I will stand between you and destroying that city. So I want to look at the script a little bit and just talk about the religious references and how that plays out in the modern version of the tale. And the first line that I highlighted is where he's, just a quick synopsis. Bruce Wayne, when he's little, he falls down a well, he breaks his arm, and there's it sort of intersperses with a more modern tale of his life, and then there's like flashbacks to his childhood. But the movie starts in a flashback where he's a child. He's fallen down a well and he's broken his arm. And then it goes into a modern scene, and he's in a Tibetan prison. And there's these abusive guys who are out to get him in the jail. And they make a habit of attacking him frequently, but apparently he's managed to stay alive, and he's, you know, beaten them up to this point. And it's breakfast time, and he gets approached by one of the abusive inmates who says, "You are in hell, little man, and I am the devil." And Bruce Wayne responds, "You're not the devil, you're practice." Well, this foreshadows the upcoming battle where he's going to actually have to fight against the main villain, who is Ra's al Ghul. And what's interesting about this foreshadowing, okay, that when you practice, you're practicing for something. You don't just practice. You practice usually for something that you're going to do. If you want to ski, or if you're a competitive skier, you will practice for that event. And that's what's happening in this film. He's fighting evil, and he wants to eventually fight evil on a grander scale. So he's taking these guys on in this prison where he's gotten himself arrested and thrown into this prison in order to learn about criminals, in order to fight with criminals, in order to sort of hone his skills to make him able to understand crime and how he can defeat crime. And the battle that's upcoming is interesting because Ra's is actually the villain who wants to destroy the city. So in the tale, Batman Begins, Ra's al Ghul is actually placed as Yahweh in the biblical Sodom and Gamorrah story. He's the one that is threatening to destroy the city. And what you've got is Bruce Wayne saying, "You're not the devil, you're practice," which is a weird implication that says that you're not the devil, your practice, implication being your practice for when I have to really fight the devil. And that would slot Ra's al Ghul as both the devil and God. And so you've got this idea that he's the character that's going to destroy the city, and at the same time he's this evil entity. He's like the complete evil. And that's not the only time that's ever been done. There was a Star Trek episode, like a classic Star Trek episode on one of the classic shows, where they actually have people on a planet who are worshiping a deity who is portrayed as a cavern with a serpent head, so that their god is actually the serpent, and they're in a utopian society where this computer that's behind this serpent head in the cave is making everything perfect. So you have, even in there, the idea of a god and Eden, and it's transposed against the serpent in the garden, where you've got God as the serpent. And so the idea of combining the God image with the Satan image is not unique to this film, I guess is what I'm saying. But it is a motif.
There's twists on that, even you know, with a number of different religions and older beliefs that have kind of fallen by the wayside. The Catholic Church, the organized church, burned a lot of the books of these people. You know, Gnostics used to hold that when you listen to the story of the Garden of Eden, that the Satan is actually the serpent is actually the good one. Because God does the lying, and the serpent tells the truth. God says, you know, don't eat of this fruit because on the day you eat it, you'll die. And the serpent says, he's full of crap. He doesn't want you to eat it because he knows it's going to give you knowledge and make you, you know, equal to him in the knowledge arena. And so what happens? They eat it, they gain the knowledge, and then this, you know, this God guy punishes them. So it's the serpent that's portrayed as at least the honest one out of it. And then that gets spun in a number of other beliefs as you know, the kind of dualistic God that is both good and evil.
Correct.
And even if you read, you don't even have to. Oh, please. Okay, go ahead. You can call in if you want. If you think I'm mischaracterizing your God, that's fine. These are real beliefs that were prevalent throughout history. This dualistic God is one that you see all the time, and you've got Janus, the two-faced God. But it's the character. Even if you read the Bible, it doesn't say, "Oh, God is, you know, both good and evil." But yes, it does. And I think it's Isaiah where he says, "I, the Lord thy God, have created everything. I create the good, I create evil." And that's been reinterpreted in some newer translations as, you know, I produce calamity.
Calamity,
Okay,
right.
whatever, still evil. The bigger thing is that when you look at it in the descriptions of God, it's a jealous God. Yet jealousy is something that we don't consider to be a good trait.
Right,
It's
right.
an evil trait.
Well, and that's the thing.
Easy to anger.
In Batman Begins, they hit on vengeance.
Yeah.
And basically saying that vengeance is not justice, and that you cannot be bringing down wrath for vengeance and in any way call that just. So there's that thing where you cannot be both vengeful and just. It's just not possible. Anyway, there's a he defeats several bad guys in the prison, and he's approached by a man in his solitary cell who's named Ducard. And Ducard says, "I speak for Ra's al Ghul, a man greatly feared by the criminal underworld, a man who can offer you a path." And where have you heard that before? You're lost and you need direction, and I work for a man who can offer you that path. And path is specifically a word used in many religions. It's not just, this is not just, he didn't say I can offer you, something to do with your life or give you some direction. I think that based on the rest of this script, path is used specifically to make it more of a stronger religious reference. And Bruce says, "What makes you think I need a path?" And this is important because not just Bruce, but the entire Wayne family, his father and his grandfather, are portrayed in this script as being people who stand for reason and humanity. And what Bruce is saying is a very humanistic question. What makes you think I need a path?
Right.
And Ducard's response includes, "You have become truly lost," which, again, that's such a strong parallel. The word verbiage used is so strongly associated with religion that I can't help but think that this is intentional. Bruce says, "And what path can Ra's al Ghul offer?" And Ducard says, "The path of a man who shares his hatred of evil and wishes to serve true justice." So in other words, I'm offering you a path of righteousness, of a way to, somebody that doesn't like evil, that does like justice. Okay, he's not evil, he's good, and I can offer you this. And it's just that black and white split. And Bruce says, "You're a vigilante." And Ducard says, "No, no, no. If you make yourself more than just a man," and again, I think this references the idea of God. You make because they say this several times in the film.
Sure.
You need to be more than a man in order to do this. If you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, and if they can't stop you, then you become something else entirely. And Bruce says, "Which is?" And Ducard says, "Legend, Mr. Wayne." Now, legend is a little ambiguous because legend doesn't imply false. There are some things that are legendary that are true. And there are some things that are legend that are not true. So legend itself is not a reflection of becoming something deceptive or becoming something, real. It's just the idea of you have become greater than just a normal person. So at this point, we just have that idea. And this is the first reference in here to becoming more than a man. And it's a god in this case. And he equates gods with legends. So then they keep having their conversation, and Ducard asks him, "What are you seeking?" Or Bruce ends up at Ra's al Ghul's compound. Once he's released, the guy tells him how to find the compound and gives him some instructions. And Bruce Wayne follows the instructions, and he goes to the compound, which is in a Tibetan like a very monastic setting, which again, you've got this very religious setting. And Bruce Wayne gets there, and he's tired, and Ducard says, "What are you seeking?" And he's translating for Ra's al Ghul, who is the main villain of the film, but currently you don't know that. Right now he's portraying himself as someone who loves true justice and someone who wants to serve justice, and he can help Bruce Wayne fight evil, and so Bruce Wayne has come to him with that understanding. And Bruce says, "I seek the means to fight injustice, to turn fear against those who prey on the fearful." And before I go on, I just want to say that fear is mentioned about 30 times in this film. Fear is a huge motif. The idea of dealing with fear, coping with fear, overcoming fear, how fear is bad, fear is paralyzing. It clouds your judgment, and we'll be getting to that too. So anyway, this is another foreshadowing of Batman's fight with Ra's al Ghul. because he says he wants to fight injustice and turn fear against those who prey on the fearful. And later we'll see that Ra's al Ghul is perhaps preys on the fearful to an extent that no one else does, even creating fear so that he can prey on it. Here's another foreshadowing of Batman's fight with Ra's. He equates those who prey on the fearful, which ultimately is Ra's, who represents the icon of God in the story. But as we'll see, the idea of God in this movie is not something real at all. It's a label placed on smoke and mirrors used to try to frighten people into good behavior. So then the next reference I want to talk about in the movie is we go back to the scene where he's fallen down the well. He's broken his arm, he's a child, and his father is getting him out of the well. And he says to him, "And why do we fall?" He's telling his son, "Why do we fall? We fall so we can learn to pick ourselves back up." And this is a contrast to Raz's Messiah message of being able to save people from themselves. And we'll see more of that in a minute. But Raz is basically of the mindset that you are lost, you need a path, you need direction, I can save you, I can get you out of this dark state that you're in and give you direction and tell you what you need to do. Whereas Bruce's father is saying, we learn to fall so we can learn to pick ourselves back up. And that's, again, a very humanist message, that you have faith in yourself to be able to overcome things, to be able to pick yourself back up, not that you need help in getting yourself back up.
You know, I think that one of the problems I have when I hear language like this, and maybe this will kind of show a little the difference about how I think versus how somebody else thinks or how a religious person thinks, but I love the second part of that message, you know, about picking yourself back up. I don't like the first part, and that is where it says, "Why do we fall?" It reminds me, you know, like of not just religion, but like bad kung fu movies. Well, why do you fall? You don't fall so that you can learn to pick yourself back up. Falling is something that happens.
Right.
It's something that, you know, what causes you to fall? Clumsiness and gravity, I think, is a big part of it. The idea that learning to pick yourself up is a positive and beneficial thing, I mean, that's huge.
Right. But it is supplying the purpose that he's imposing in the first part.
Well, we're also building a mythic hero here. We're talking about Batman. So Batman. So we need to, you know, kind of do this over the top. And why do we fall? So that we can learn to pick ourselves back up.
But there are several times where falling in here, just to add this, there are several times where falling is mentioned as failure, where it comes up again as failure. And it's the idea of failure is actually okay. You can correct yourself. You can fix yourself. You can come back and be better. And that's his father's statement there. So we can learn to pick ourselves back up, or why do we fall, which implies the second part, continues through this. Even after his father is dead, when he's dazed, there are times when he remembers his father's voice saying, "Why do we fall?" And it's usually the times where he's at his lowest point, where he's almost defeated, and then he hears his father say, "Why do we fall?" And that's when he finds that inner strength and says, "I can do this." And that's a very humanist message, as opposed to the idea of Ra's al Ghul's message, which is, "I can pick you back up." But it's about they can pick themselves back up. The theme of the film is that people are redeemable and that they are perfectly capable of redeeming themselves without intervention. This idea, and specifically this quote from Thomas Wayne, is repeated several times throughout the film. Thomas Wayne comes in, his son is having a nightmare, and when he fell down the well, broke his arm, he was attacked by bats, or they flocked around him, and he interpreted that as being attacked. And his father, it scared the boy, and the boy has nightmares. His father says, "You know why they attacked you, don't you? They were afraid of you." So what I get from this is, in addition to the negative effect of paralyzing people and restricting them from taking reasonable action, fear can motivate proactive, volatile, harmful action. It is an unstable motivator because it overrides reason and rationality. At the same time, it drives behavior. This is one of the reasons that fearful people are easy to lead. They need only feel that this or that person can save them from the thing they fear, and they are willing to follow any instructions. The problem is, while they're following those instructions, they are volatile, and on some regards, while they're easy to lead, on a smaller level, they're hard to control, because a person who is scared is a volatile thing. You can't trust what they're going to do. You can know that they will go with you if they think you can save them, but at the same time, they're not thinking straight. So it's not a good state in which to trust the other person's judgment or to trust the other person while they're fearful. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, we got one caller in line. I don't want to make him wait any longer. Is it Eric?
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing, Eric?
Excellent. I'm doing good. Yeah, I heard about your guys' show. Actually, I found it on iTunes.
Oh.
I'm from Michigan.
Oh, all right. So you're calling long distance.
Cell phone, 3 minutes.
Ah, cool.
It's all good. And even if I had to pay, I would do it.
Well, we don't want to make you wait too long. So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
questions do you have?
So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything like this done anywhere else or if it's just you guys, but I didn't see any other podcasts or anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not alone in the fight for reason. I don't know how many other groups are doing shows. I know that American Atheist used to do, and perhaps still does, some 30-minute show once a week or once every couple weeks or whatever. We're the only ones that I know of that are doing, a 90-minute live call-in show pretty much every week. But
And
a lot
I
of it's
must say,
because
you guys do an excellent job of fielding these calls. I mean, I'm into the science side of it. I'm into the evolutionary side and everything. So I'm not as knowledgeable on the Bible as you, but so I do debate once in a while, but I guess I fall short on that side of things. But I just can't. I mean, I think it's really amazing.
I bet you don't really fall short.
Calls.
I bet you really don't fall short. I bet you just tend to get frustrated that you don't get where you think you ought to get to, and that happens here just as well.
Yeah.
We're I don't know. Is it a problem in the studio? We're losing your phone where I can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me?
There you go.
I hear you now.
There you go.
So did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I guess my general question, I was kind of just hinting at it. Since I do debate a lot, I guess I kind of, like I said, I fall short on the Bible side of things. And right now I'm really busy with school, so as much as I want to read some books on like archaeological finds with the Bible and everything, I just don't really have time right now. So I guess I kind of wanted to get your point of view, having actually read the Bible and knowing as much as you do. Do you know more about, say, like its origins and such that kind of discredit it?
Do I? Probably. I mean, if you go to the ACE website, there's a lecture that I did a year and a half ago on the biblical canon, and I touch on some of the problems there. But I think the bigger point is that you don't have to spend a lot of time becoming an expert in all things Bible, because first of all, Christianity and Judaism aren't the only two religions out there.
Right.
It's like, right now we're seeing a rash of Muslims pointing to the Quran, saying the Quran has revealed all these great things way before men ever discovered it. And the fact of the matter is, it's wrong. It's hogwash. They're reinterpreting passages. So you don't have to become an expert in any of them. The thing to remember is that anybody who's making a claim and using an argument from the Bible or an argument from the Quran, they have the burden of proof. They need to establish that the book is a reliable source that somebody should accept as true. Now, I'm not even sure how anybody could begin to do that, because every attempt that I've seen that tries, and including the attempts that I tried myself as a believer, they fail, and they fail easily, because in the case of the Bible, for the most part, we have no original we don't have any original manuscripts. We also don't know who wrote a great chunk of it. It makes outrageous claims that there's no supporting evidence for. Many of the things that are in the Bible exist nowhere else. There's there's historical confirmation for even the existence of Jesus, let alone the things he supposedly did.
Right.
Some passages are added.
Yeah, there are passages that are added. You don't even have to go outside the Bible to find warnings. Excuse me. Paul basically goes to great effort to say, I'm writing this in my own handwriting so that you know that it wasn't forged. Basically letting us know that the forgeries were prevalent. And from the variety of manuscripts that we have and the differences, we know that there were forgeries going on. The Johannine Comma that reinterprets to invent the Trinity. Those types of things are in there. Is it Mark 16, 9 through 20, the very end of the book of Mark, is all, doesn't exist in the oldest manuscripts.
Yeah.
But even if all the manuscripts were good and reliable and the same, and we had them back to the originals, that still tells us nothing about whether or not they're true. For example, if the Bible had revealed something profound and scientific, it still wouldn't be justified, you still wouldn't be justified to believe it because the Bible said it. That's an argument from authority. Once we would have confirmed through reasonable scientific methods the truth of the statement, then it might have an impact on, aha, here's some revelation that people had long before they could have had access to knowledge, and that might be relevant. But the problem is in those old books, you don't see anything like that. You don't see anything that's specific. What you see are passages that people interpret after science has discovered something and said, oh yes, well of course the Bible said this. Well, the problem is that once upon a time people would say that the Bible claimed that the earth was the center of the universe, or that it was flat on 4 pillars, hung motionless in the sky, with a firmament that you couldn't penetrate. And yet, as science discovered the truth, these people went back and did a little revision in their interpretation, found a different passage, and said, see, this passage here says the earth is circular. We had a guy call in, I think it was last week, saying, how do you deal with this, this profound knowledge in the Bible that the earth is circular? That's easy.
Yeah.
It's not circular. It's a sphere. Circles are flat. The idea that it shouldn't even be that hard. The idea that it's somewhat circular is easy. I mean, somebody wrote in and reminded me that we should have just said right off the bat, if you stand up on top of a mountain, you look around in a circle and you see a fairly continuous horizon. It makes sense that ancient people with no other knowledge might come up with the idea that the earth is a circle.
Yeah, okay.
Plus they could navigate past the horizon. They had eclipses to view. Anybody that sees the shadow of the earth on the moon, right? Should have the idea that it's round.
The important thing is you don't need to know anything at all about the Bible, because when people make the arguments from the Bible, the response is, why are you accepting the Bible as a true authority? They have to establish that there's good reason to do that. And if anybody can, that would be interesting, and I'd like to know about it. Because so far, even with the best quote-unquote apologists, I haven't seen anything that even comes close. And were we to find something, it would still need to be verified by the methods that we deem reasonable for analyzing evidence and making good decisions. The fact that some book said something, it doesn't mean anything more to me that the Bible happens to say X is a sin or X is true than War and Peace might say something.
Actually, something I do want to ask, because you just said it a minute ago. I mentioned that to my brother, who's pretty religious, and we argue about this. He said, I said, well, the Bible at one time said this, and clearly that's not the case. What you said about, the earth obviously isn't flat. Does it actually, no, it doesn't say that in there. Does it say that in there somewhere? I mean, specifically?
I know it mentions the 4 corners of the earth in 2 separate passages.
Okay.
And one of the things, in much the same way, okay, what we're talking about a little bit is biblical interpretation. And I try to be as fair and reasonable about this as possible. You can interpret the Bible to say almost anything you want. Right. But what I look for is when somebody's giving me an interpretation of a passage, the more close to literal it is, the more likely I am to think that their view of what the author meant is correct. It's not always the case because you have poetry and metaphor, etc. But when you say that somebody could stand on top of a mountain, or that there was a tree growing on top of a mountain that could be seen from the entire earth, you are describing a small, flat earth. There is no other option. There is no place on the planet Earth that you could put any tree of any size that it could be seen from the whole of the earth. Matter of fact, there isn't a spot in Austin where you could put a tree that you could see it from the whole of Austin. So they're describing a very tiny, flat world, and that's the way their viewpoint was.
Right, and if God was really all-knowing, this offered word of His wouldn't be so fallible like this.
I would tend to agree.
So I guess what I was getting at was I did start reading a book, I believe it's called The Bible on Earth or something like that. And I mean, my understanding
is that Finkelstein?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Is that Finkelstein? It's biblical archaeology?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got it. I haven't finished it, but I was reading some stuff in there. They're going through and kind of showing what what archaeology, what real science does agree with about the Bible and doesn't agree with regard to the Jewish time imprisoned by the Egyptians, which basically we're starting to figure out there's no reason to think it ever happened.
Right. Yeah, because it mentions things like herds of camels back when they weren't domesticated yet, and just random things like that. I guess I just wanted to get your take how many of those types of things you knew if you've read this book. And
I haven't finished the book, but so far from what I've read, they seem to be right on the mark, and at least they're backed with good science and reason, and they're not making they're making claims that they don't go outright to say that this is all false or made up. Their larger point seems to be that we can't, through archaeology, confirm this. As a matter of fact, the archaeological evidence leads us to think that things like this never happened. But that doesn't change the fact that what we're talking about is Jewish history, true or false, that has had an effect on the Jewish people. So they're a little more forgiving, I guess, than I would be about discovering that archaeology doesn't support their myths. But they're not pulling any punches when the evidence isn't there to support it, or when the evidence contradicts it. They say so, and so far it's been a really good book.
Okay, yeah, I'm taking summer classes. I'm still in school, so it's hard for me to keep up on everything, especially since I already read enough books on evolution as it is, and I really enjoy that side of things. I don't think I could honestly sit down and just read the Bible. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to do it again either, and I still read bits and pieces of it, but I certainly wouldn't want to read it straight through ever again. If you're looking for something that's well written and quick and gives you some information, oh gosh, I've forgotten his name, but it'll come to me in a second. Bart Ehrman has written, I'd recommend Misquoting Jesus and also Lost Christianities. Both of those look at fraud in the Bible and the way the competing views on Christianity fought, which ones won out, and how they went about suppressing the ideas of the competition. So,
okay.
Thanks a lot for the call, Eric. I'll let you go. Appreciate you calling in. Oops. I guess that was it. Let's do this one real quick. Is it Tracy?
Yeah.
How you doing, Tracy?
Okay.
Did you? If you got your TV on, you may want to turn it down. I think there's like a 4-second delay or something.
Okay. So. I'll do that right now. Yeah, and I'm watching it, and then it's kind of tripping me out
yeah,
too. Okay.
Just focus on the phone and ignore the TV. It's really distracting.
Okay, cool.
So, do you have a question for us?
I do. Looking at your program, and I'm wondering, when we take the Bible and what you were just talking about with that other guy, and you take, no, let's not say the Bible. Let's just go for creationist, and then we go with evolutionist. Let's go all the way back, because here's a tripped out thought right here. If you take it all the way back,
all the way
I'm
back,
talking about all the way back before there was time. Did you know, everyone's talking about creationist and evolutionist agree on one thing?
First of all, I don't agree with your premise that you can take it back to before there was time.
Okay. Well, there was a singularity when they said that there was a point in time where there was nothing. That's what evolutionists said. You go back in time to a point where there was absolutely no molecules, no nothing, and all of a sudden there was a bang.
No. First of all, evolution relates to biology. It only deals with what happens to life after it forms. It has nothing to do with cosmology or the universe or abiogenesis or anything like that. So evolution evolution has nothing to say on that. However, what you're saying about going back to a time when there was nothing, while we don't know exactly how the universe started, the prevalent theories don't say there wasn't anything. As a matter of fact, the first law of thermodynamics is that matter energy can't be created or destroyed. They can only change form. So that would dictate that the universe has always existed in some form. Now,
can you give me a lowdown on the Big Bang Theory then? What is the Big Bang Theory in your mind?
That's kind of what I was just doing. Basically, if you trace back, and the Big Bang has been confirmed, it's as much of a confirmed theory / fact as anything else you'll find. The cosmic background microwave radiation, which was predicted by the Big Bang Theory, has been measured, and it matches dot for dot. But 14.5 billion years ago or so, the math, we can't get back past the Planck time, which is a very tiny unit of time between the actual moment of the explosion, of the singularity, or the beginning of the expansion of the singularity. So we can't trace back any farther than that. So anything further back is speculation right now.
I got you. I see your point. Okay.
Now, physicists, and Tracy pointed this out the other day, physicists will often say that time began with the Big Bang.
Yes, that's what they're talking about. That's the way I understood it from my school. Yeah.
What they're talking about is that time, in the sense of
the way Hawking says it is that because we can't talk about anything prior to the point of expansion, he says you might as well cut those things out of the theory. He's not saying that time didn't exist. He's saying there's really no point talking about it prior to the formation of the current incarnation of the universe. So time it's not that he's saying it didn't exist. He's simply saying it's not important until this universe forms. Because at that point, we have something we can measure. Prior to that, we have nothing we can measure, and so we can't really talk about it. And so let's just say, for the sake of the theory, time starts with our universe. So it's not that he's saying that it actually started with the universe. He's simply saying that's when it becomes relevant to us.
However, since we don't actually know or even have a good theory understanding of the beginning of the current state of our universe, and now that we've cleared up the definitions, what was the actual comment or point that you were going to make?
My point is simply this, and I'm sure you've heard it all before. It just seems to me, an intelligent species such as ourselves, it just seems to me, man, that we had to come from some sort of intelligence, that's all.
Why?
It just seems that some type of a designer or some type of a design said, Big Bang, bang, be there. Because I kind of believe in the Big Bang Theory. I just think that it had a cause. Not just something random and not just a molecule. Something caused that damn thing to go bang. And creation started, evolution started, all at the same time. That's all I'm thinking.
So you basically said two different things that are unrelated, and I want to make sure that we kind of hit both of them real quick. One you said is that you don't think intelligent people could have come from anything other than an intelligent designer.
Yeah, that's what I believe,
I don't know why that is, but before we actually get to that, I think the other one may be quicker to address.
All right.
And that is that you believe in the Big Bang, but you think that there must have been some intelligent cause for it.
Yeah, like God up there with a cannon and a spiritual being, and he pulled a string and just said, bang, now be created and evolve and go do your things now. And that sort of thing, man. That's what I'm
Why do you think it's justifiable to posit a supernatural, transcendent cause rather than just accepting that it could have happened by a natural cause?
Yeah, what's natural, though, man? What made natural? What made nature? You see what I'm saying? And how do you keep going back? You say
what
natural
makes you
cause.
think something
Where
had
did
to
natural
make...
come from? Where did nature come from? I'm
you're
the kind of guy, dude. I'm the kind of guy. I just want to know the why behind the why. That's just how I'm designed.
You're asking the wrong questions. You're asking all the wrong questions, and all of your questions...
Well, maybe I'm talking to the wrong guy about the right questions. Maybe that's it.
Well, if you'd let me finish real quick.
Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
The reason you're asking the wrong questions is because your questions presume the nature of the answer. It's like saying, why did the universe exist? That's the wrong question. The question is, the universe exists. What is the explanation? By asking what the explanation is, that leaves open any possibility. And it could be that the explanation is some God type thing created it. Or it could be that it occurred by natural processes that we don't have an understanding of. But when you say why, you imply purpose and design.
I sure do, man. Yeah, you're right. And I do that on purpose.
That narrows the possibilities of the answers. It narrows the directions in which you can look for answers. So basically, you're assuming the answer and then going looking for it. And when you don't find anything that's satisfying, you feel justified in presuming that your original presumption was correct. And that's not the way science works. That's not the way we learn or understand anything. And if we have no way of investigating and no way of understanding what happened prior to the Big Bang, then it's asinine to speculate about the cause, and it's incredibly asinine to make up, oh, it must have been an intelligence because that's what I'm most comfortable with.
Man, you're not curious about how we got here.
What do you mean?
Sure, man, come on.
What do you mean?
That's a question that the whole human race is asking.
I never
How do we
said.
get here?
I
Sure,
never.
man,
Stop. I never said I wasn't curious.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I'm not willing to narrow down the answer to why.
All right, I'll put you on that.
I'm open to any answer. Oh God, your mind is at least partially closed because you are narrowing the possible answers to only those that you're most comfortable with. That isn't science. It's not reason. It's not logic. It's not wisdom. It's fantasy. It's comfort. You're seeking the answer that you're most comfortable with. And I'm sorry, but that's not a path to truth. I am interested in where all this comes from, but I can also accept that there may be questions that not only do we not have the answer to them now, we may never have the answer to them. So let's instead focus on answering the questions that we can ask, continue to seek out the explanations as best we can, and not narrow the focus of our examination in such a way that we're making appeals to the supernatural. That's just not the way to go about it. You there?
I see your point. I see your point, sort of. I really do. About 50% of it, I see. But I do keep my open mind. I keep an open mind. So.
Okay. I got no problem with that. I mean, you're right on one level in that we're all interested in the answers to these questions. And I can certainly understand why people would feel more comfortable personalizing something or anthropomorphizing something so that, I mean, it's nice to think that there may be some intelligence out there that's guiding everything or that cares, but there's no evidence to support that that's possible or
the guiding and the caring thing. I don't know about that part of it, but I do believe that something created something to move along things, and I don't know. I don't know about I'm with you on the
what created
guiding people and all this other stuff and this
what created
and all this other stuff, and I don't know about all the praying stuff. I do think that somehow or another some type of intelligent design created it.
Okay, and what created that intelligence?
And see, there you go. And that's the sad thing. You're right. You can go backwards and backwards and backwards. So I don't know, man. I'm just one of these curious kind of cats, man, who just always looks for a reason why. And I'm not just looking for the easy God answer. You're wrong on that part.
You just did the most. You just did the most.
If that was the case, I never would have just called you up. I never would have been interested in what you said. Like most.
Somebody fix the damn phones.
Turning when they see you talking. You know what I'm saying? They would. They just keep right on turning. Okay.
No, you can't hear me. It's a problem with the phones. I apologize. I wasn't yelling at you or the crew. I know it's not your fault. It's just when you hear this back later on the tape, it's going to sound like ass because we're both trying to talk. And maybe I should just let you finish. I wanted to compliment you because you just did one of the most beautiful, honest things ever, and that was you said the words, "I don't know."
Okay.
And that's it. I mean, that doesn't mean you stop looking. You know when you stop looking is when you have an answer. And that's one of my biggest objections to religion is because religion pretends to offer answers.
All the answers.
That stop investigation.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can I just have a real quick thing? I just wrote to somebody this week, and I said, Matt taught me a magic trick, which I have used a couple times, and whenever I do it, people are just like, you're creeping me out because I don't know how you're doing that. And so I do this magic trick, and I get this response, which is, first of all, people will be like, this is just too weird, because that's what a magic trick does. It does something that seems to defy what makes sense to you. Otherwise, it's not a magic trick, right? The guy does something, and you're going, I don't know how he did that. It doesn't, you know he didn't really levitate somebody, but God, you saw him put the hula hoop around her. How does he do this? So I do this magic trick, and people are all freaked out. Well, usually people will say, how did you do that? Okay, how did you do it? Well, in the trick, I pretend, and everyone knows it's pretense, and I'll be like, okay, get your psychic energy going and whatever, and then the trick goes. Well, people will say when it gets done, how did you do that? And I'll say, it was the psychic energy. It was magic. It's magic. Well, I have yet to meet one person who is satisfied with that answer, who says to me, oh, okay, I guess it's magic. Well, no, people know that there's got to be a real explanation. Magic is not an explanation. And so when people say, and when people put forward God, really what they're saying is magic. It's just magic. We don't know how it was done. It was like this being that can do magic.
Yeah,
and it made the universe.
I don't know.
You're trying to answer a mystery with a mystery, and you get nowhere. I mean, to me, if we were talking a minute ago about tracing this causal chain backwards forever, what created the universe? Well, God. Well, what created God? Some other God. And eventually you have to supposedly get to something that always existed. And so the religionists, particularly Christians and modern religions, say that God is the thing that always existed. And my answer, which is not unique to me, I mean, this is common among
like to know who made
most
God.
atheists. No, my answer is there's no reason to go back one step to the God. We're already justified in accepting that the universe always existed in some form. There's no reason to posit something else beyond it that always existed.
As far as we know, matter and energy can't be created or destroyed, so for all intents and purposes, as far as we're concerned, it's eternal. Now, that may not be true, but it's like what Hawking said. You can't go back any further, and in everything we know about this universe, matter can't be created or destroyed, so it's, as far as we know, it's indestructible. And we don't know where it began, so in my mind, it's like, why give those attributes to God and then say he produced it? Just say, this stuff, this matter in itself is indestructible and potentially eternal, so, there you go.
And Tracy, I got
to know where it came from. Don't you get that?
What I'm saying, though, is what I'm saying...
oh, my God.
Right, but what I'm saying is
where did it come from, man?
There are people who say it came from a God who is eternal and indestructible. And what I'm saying is, why make up a God that's eternal and indestructible when we already have stuff that, as far as we know, is eternal and indestructible?
Yeah.
So if we have stuff
right,
that
we have stuff. Where did that stuff come from that's eternal and indestructible?
If it's eternal, it didn't have to come from anywhere. It's a thing that we can test and say, we don't know how to make it and we don't know how to destroy it. It just seems to exist and we can't stop it. And that's what matter does. So matter is fairly indestructible, and as far as we know, we don't think it had a beginning. I mean, there's no reason to posit that it began
Well,
from
I'm a little
something
confused.
else.
What is the Big Bang Theory? Because from what I understand, the Big Bang Theory was when everything started to become. That's when
No, not to become.
Molecules and so forth and so on.
No.
Big Bang.
That's what you're misunderstanding the theory.
Am I really okay?
Yeah.
Basically, the Big Bang traces it back to the point where everything that exists, everything in our universe, was compacted into one tiny singularity.
Right.
Right.
Now, I don't want to make the claim that the singularity was some real tangible thing there. But what we're talking about with the Big Bang is the expansion of everything from this singularity outwards, and it proceeds out at a rate that is measurable. And the force of the explosion can be measured in the cosmic background radiation. I mean, all of this stuff is scientifically confirmable. So,
Right. And it's still expanding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although it may slow down and contract.
That's all I'm saying to you, man. That's all I'm asking.
What's that?
What started that expansion? That's all I'm asking.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, Hawking says it's untraceable at this point.
Nobody knows.
All right.
We have possible theories, but unfortunately, because of the nature of reality, we can't get back beyond the Planck time to the point, to the time of the event. We can't cross the event horizon.
Right.
But there are some good theories and there are ideas. And the bigger thing is that as long as, even if we never had a good theory, even if everything we found just failed and never gave us an answer, that doesn't mean that God did it ever becomes viable, because that is a hypothesis on its own that requires evidentiary support.
Right. It needs to be supported. It can't just be to make a claim and then not to support that claim, or to support it simply by saying this other claim is false.
I understand. So you guys are better off in your mind, have more peace in your mind by just simply saying, okay, you know what? This is just simply unknowable.
Correct.
Well,
I
wouldn't say unknowable.
Whereas that answer right there is going to have my fist crawling day in and day out.
Yeah, it's unknown now. I don't know that it's necessarily unknowable. It may be that we come up with an answer. The thing, and I don't know if this will help or make it more difficult, but one thing is to consider the answer. How does saying God created the universe fundamentally any different from saying magical, transcendent, universe-building pixies created the universe?
Really, not a whole lot of difference. Because neither one of them can be photographed, pictured, or proven.
Correct.
So, so I can see your point on that. But I mean, I've got to have people. I guess people in general. Because if you look at the atheists, or if you look at the Christians, or should I say people who believe in God, you guys are a minority.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Okay, cool. So you do know that.
Yeah.
So I think what it is most human nature people, we have to have some type of answer. We're just not going to go with this is unknowable or unknowing for now. We got to have, and I think that's the difference between different religions. That's why, right, man. It could be a God in heaven with a big beard, or some pixies, or some aliens, or whatever. But man, we as human beings, man, we're gonna pick something, man. To
Let me-
I guess.
But we're not going to pick something.
Well, wait
I
a
see you
second.
playing a whole
I
lot,
wanna-
man. I really do. I do. So,
Let me give you really quickly. There's a Buddhist story.
I won't take up too much of your time, man. I mean, I'm gonna, go
right.
here,
Okay.
Jen. But
Well,
damn,
we
dude,
appreciate the
I
call,
really like
Tracy.
the
We'll
show.
go ahead
I like how honest you are about how you feel and stuff.
Thank you.
We appreciate the call, Tracy, and
That's okay.
this, Tracy, we'll take more offline. Thanks.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah, we can just go to another call. It was just a story that related. It was a Buddhist story about a person that comes to Buddha and he's complaining. I think I might have said it before on the show, so I don't want to spend too much time. But one of his followers comes and complains that I've come to follow you because people told me that you were this wise master, and ever since I've been here now, it's been 5 years, and you have never once explained like universal origins and all these. It's these heavy religious questions about you haven't, where did the universe come from? Why are people intelligent? Why, all these things that you've not given me an answer to. And Buddha says to him, if you were shot with an arrow, would you let me remove the arrow, or would you tell me I can't take the arrow out until I find out who shot you? And the point being, he's like, I can help you deal with your emotions and deal with your emotional pain, but if I don't know, do you have to know the answer to this in order to basically cope with your life?
Right.
And so Buddha's answer was, these questions don't really matter in the grand scheme of living your life and doing what you need to do and getting by and having emotional control, being fulfilled, being happy does not require that you know who shot you. Yeah. Certain questions don't require an answer for you to have a happy life, and one of them is, where did the universe come from?
Yeah, this is, I think, probably the one answer the one response that I'd make to Tracy and have him think about it a little bit more is, towards the end, he made this comment that, we recognize that we're a minority, and he's like, well, we're human beings, man, we want to answer this question, and we're going to believe in something like this. And I'd say, no, that's the whole point. It doesn't matter that we're a minority. We don't even need to bring numbers into it. The point I'm making is that you don't have to do that. It's possible to get over, hey, hit the auto button so that we can see the auto camera move since you're on the wrong person, because that would have been cool. Come on. All right. You don't have to, whether it's the majority doing it, whether it's out of comfort, adopt this standard method of, I'm so uncomfortable with not knowing that I'm going to accept some answer, even though there's no good reason to accept it. That's not the way to go about things. There is a better way. When people say, well, all you do is rail against religion, tell us what's so good about atheism. Well, first of all, as I mention every time, it's not a dogma, it's not a religion, it's not a philosophy, it's not a way of life, it's a response to theism. But what I'm talking about with the scientific method, with the naturalistic approach, the philosophical naturalism used as an approach to discovering reality. That's what we're talking about in this case. And that is an incredibly beautiful thing, because it is the one and only consistently reliable, independently verifiable method that we have for understanding reality. It's not knowledge that's power, it's understanding. You can know facts and not how to use them. Understanding reality is the best tool that you have. And the best way to hone that tool is to use logic, reason, and evidence. Put that together, come up with a method that allows you, and you don't have to invent this yourself, it's not particularly hard. It involves critical thinking, skepticism, analysis. How reliable are your sources? Asking yourself those questions allows you to fine-tune and hone your mind so that you can believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. That's the key. That's the key to understanding. If there's a question that we don't have an answer to, boy, that's frustrating. It's annoying. I'd love to know how it all started. I'd love to know without any doubt how it all started. I'd like to know every aspect of every element from history that's ever happened to anybody, because that would give me the kind of understanding that I could really appreciate. But we can't. I can't know what was going through Napoleon's mind. I can't know. I can't know if Jesus Christ ever existed, and if he did, who he was, what he said, what he did. All I can do is take the best evidence available and piece together and come up with some kind of belief, some position to some degree of certainty. And I need to weigh that against the effects of holding those beliefs. once you do that, you build a model of reality that is useful, accurate, and reliable. That's the key. You don't have to just, oh, I can't come up with anything better, so God did it.
Something up. Yeah.
You know, when did this become justifiable? So that, yes, we're a minority, and the majority of people do this. So when in our evolution did it become acceptable, and not just acceptable, lauded for people to accept unreal propositions as if they were real in order to alleviate the discomfort of saying, I don't know? I can't justify it. We haven't gotten in as much in your Batman.
I mean, honestly, I can come back to this on another program.
Yeah.
We have a lot of calls.
And we got full lines, so I just want to keep going through calls. We've only got like 25 minutes left, and I don't want to preach or rant for too long anyway. So is it John?
Hey, John.
How you doing,
Hello?
John? Are you John?
Hello?
Are you John?
Hey, John. How y'all doing?
I'm good. What's your name?
My name's John.
Hey, that's what we thought.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you may want to turn down your TV and focus on the phone.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, first-time caller, long-time listener. Pretty cool.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from downtown Austin, actually, you guys.
Woo!
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you great. Focus on the phone and not the TV because there's like a 4-second delay. So, did you have a question?
Yeah, I actually had a question for you guys. Is that all right?
Sure.
Here's my question for the both of y'all. Like, my question is, do you guys think, like, the murder of Madalyn O'Hare and the publicity of it all got, like, all of the publicity that it came from, like, do you think it's had, like, a huge impact on the research and study of atheism?
Actually, no. If we look at it as, you know, the way that the question was phrased on the monitor, and so I'd already thought about this for a second, you know, did Madalyn have more of an impact while she was alive than her death did? I think the answer is yes. She definitely had more impact while she was alive. She was the most hated woman in America. She was, you know, she had her own TV show here in Austin. She was on Phil Donahue all the time. She was critical in removing government-mandated prayer and Bible readings from schools. Her death was tragic. It was a mystery. It was, you know, for a number of years. It's been solved since then. I think the best, there's actually some people who made this comment before. One of the best things about Madalyn's death, and I didn't know her. I didn't know her at all. I wasn't even an atheist while she was alive, actually. But I think some of the people who know her would say that even she would have one positive thing to appreciate about her death, and that is that she died in such a way that nobody could ever claim that she had a deathbed conversion to Christianity. I think she would be pleased that that couldn't possibly be the case.
Awesome. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Like, also, like, do you think if she was still around and she wasn't murdered, she would still have the same impact she would have, like, without her brutal murder of her son and her daughter as well?
I have no idea. I'd like to think that she'd be out there lecturing alongside Dawkins, Hitchens, Harris. I didn't agree with Madalyn. You know, I've read her books out, you know, obviously after she died, but I don't agree with her on everything. But boy, I agree with her on a great deal, and so do many of the so-called quote unquote new atheists. There is no new atheism. There's nothing new about it. I'm saying the same things that. Many of the same things that Madalyn said when she had her show and she wrote her books, and so is Dawkins, Harris, Dennett, Hitchens, everybody else.
Yeah. Linda, can I get your opinion on that question?
Linda, okay.
Can I get?
Yeah, I definitely think that there was more discussion of her impact on, I guess, secularizing things when she was alive. After she's dead, her name almost never comes up on our list. We get people writing in about Dawkins, people mentioning Sam Harris, people mentioning there's another British guy, Hitchens, Richard, or not. I was going to call him Richard Hitchens, and so we do get certain names, but I almost hear nothing about Madalyn Murray O'Hare anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, like, because she was a huge impact back in, like, 94, 95, like, before the time of her kidnapping and brutal murder of her.
That's why I'm saying my view would be that she had more impact while she was alive, because today I hardly hear anything about her.
Really? Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I'm surprised you guys still don't talk about her on occasion.
Oh, I mean, it comes up, but, you know.
I think the modern champions are more, they're just more in the limelight, and I think to some degree they're a little bit less caustic.
I think they may be better representatives of atheism.
Dawkins gets slammed for being caustic, and
Yeah.
he can't touch Madalyn Murray O'Hair for being abrasive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the fact that she was like an extremist, you know what I mean? Like she really pushed it out there. Do you think that was kind of like maybe like a black eye?
There are people who think that she gave atheism a black eye.
She kind of put that upon herself. You got to agree on that one, I hope. She was.
Well,
it almost seemed like she wanted to pick fights and battles with everybody.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. But that's
she was a Hellcat.
The thing is that when you look at somebody like that, and it's easy to say, oh, they were extremist, or they gave atheism a bad name. They were too confrontational. The fact of the matter is, she saw problems, and she was honest and forthright about making sure that those problems were addressed. And I think if it weren't for the fact that we had Madalyn as caustic and in your face as she was during those years, none of us would be sitting here today. I don't think, 9/11 changed some people's minds about religion. I got to put you on hold because there's noise on your line. 9/11 changed some people's minds about religion, for and against, and that had a huge impact. But if it hadn't been for some fundamental changes that happened because of Madalyn and others like her, I don't think any of us would be sitting here today doing this show. So while you could say it gave atheism a black eye, it may have just been one of those necessary things. And a lot of people have asked, well, are you being too confrontational, or talking to me, or are you being too nice? I think there's room for all of it. When I don't need to go to the average, Free Will Baptist church and storm in and talk about, how some other religion is currently practicing honor killings, because they have nothing to do with it. Oh, he hung up. I'm sorry, John. I hope you're still listening, but there was a problem with the phone. Yeah, there's no reason for me to rail on him for that, and there's no reason for me to rail on other religious people for things that they don't have any involvement with. But there is a time to rail on that. The Pope, before he was Pope, was involved in hiding priests who victimized children. Period. No two ways about it. I don't care if he comes to America and apologizes for it. I don't care what they think their justification is. What they've done should be illegal. They get away with it because they're a church, because they're Vatican City, because they're important. It's bullshit. There are priests, and this isn't just Catholics. I'm just pointing out this one issue. And by the way, it's not all Catholics. There's plenty of good Catholics out there that I like. But when you have people who are violating the rights of anybody, but in this case, children, and you, instead of working with the authorities, taking measures to stop it, turning these people in, when you instead ship them off to your rehab centers and then shuffle them off to other parishes where they can victimize more people, you're an accomplice. You're just as guilty. It's like that. I don't need to say that the average Christian is as crazy as the family in, I think it was Wisconsin recently, whose daughter was diabetic, and they decided to pray instead of taking her to the doctor, and she died. They killed their daughter. Manslaughter, murder. I figure out they're being charged. I think it's negligent homicide that they're being charged with.
That
maybe
sounds
second
like it
degree.
would be right.
They killed their daughter. No two ways about it. But I realize not every Christian's that crazy. So, at least not in that area. I mean, they're all. We are all crazy to some degree, and I don't exclude myself. We are all prone to buying into something that's just not true. The question is, how strongly are you willing to buy into it, and what actions are you willing to take on behalf of it? There is not a single thing that I believe that could ever convince me to do anything remotely like, hey, let's not take them to a doctor, let's just keep praying. That's a level of batshit crazy that only exists in religions and insane asylums. Oh, you're not going to You're not going to back me up on that.
No, I mean, you know, last time I was on, I railed on
well, it's your week. Children. We got 50. Oh, yes.
So, yeah, anything to do with harming children really.
Oh, yeah, and after you drop your F-bomb, then I throw a couple colors out today. Welcome to everything. Is this Alan?
No, actually, this is Russell.
Oh, Alan hung up. Hey, Russell. How you doing?
Fine.
On the phone is Russell, who's another co-host. So now it's your turn.
Hey, I just wanted to let people know who heard the show, who heard my last show where I was talking about Chuck Colson, that my letter to him was posted last night.
Really?
On the Atheist Experience blog.
Okay, have they done anything with it?
I haven't actually let them know that it's posted yet. I'm leaving it up for a little bit while I think about what else to write to our readers.
Right.
And then I'm going to send it along to Mike.
Okay. Since we redid the graphics today real quick, we don't have the graphic, but you can go to atheistexperience.blogspot.com. That's the blog that Martin, who's now in the regular co-host list, has been running, and Russell and Tracy both been regular contributors over there.
I'm not as regular as Russell.
I was regular for a couple weeks and then haven't written anything there in months. But Russell's got his letter up. It's the same one I read, right?
Yeah. With some changes that you suggested.
Well, in that case, I doubly recommend that you go read it because, you know.
Okay, that's all I wanted to mention. Don't want to step on your show, Tracy.
No problem.
All right. Thanks, Russell.
All right, see ya.
Yeah, so even if there's not a graphic up there, also, I think there may be a link from the ACA site that leads there, but it's atheistexperience.blogspot.com. And Russell's post to Chuck Colson's up there right now. So
Jay's been waiting.
Jay's been waiting for a while. Is this Jay?
Yeah.
How you doing?
When are you going to work next Saturday? What time?
I'll be there all day.
Pardon?
I'll be there all day.
All day? If I bring you some books that I've asked you to read, you know, before, if I loan them to you, I'm going to loan them to you. Then y'all come to the History Center the first Sunday of each month at 12:15.
Yes.
We follow y'all at 2 o'clock on the first Sunday.
Yeah.
You can bring them back. But I want you to do me a favor. You be my guest to stay the first hour at our meeting.
I'll come to the meeting, but the thing is, I don't like to borrow books from people that I don't know that well because I don't always go to the lecture, and I can't promise how quickly I'll be able to read it.
Oh, well, I don't.
But we can work this out Saturday, Jay. I'll see you down there. We can talk about it then.
We can work this out Saturday.
Yeah.
All right, if you're going to be down there, I'll try.
I'll be down there, and I'll see you Saturday, Jay. I appreciate it. Thanks. Sorry for taking personal phone calls on the Atheist Experience. Actually, Jay, most of you will recognize is a frequent caller, and he's actually talking about books that he's called in to recommend on specific topics that we've discussed here. And, you know, man, I wish that was the other thing. In addition to wishing that I could know and have a good understanding of everything, you know, that's happened, I wish I had time to read all those books that have the thoughts of all those other people. I mean, I would just find that really interesting. So, okay, here we go. Is this Jason?
Yes, sir.
And you have a question?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Ask away.
Okay, you guys are atheists, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so basically, you don't believe in anything, right?
No, that's not correct. Actually, turn down your TV because I can hear the echo. Just listen to us on the phone.
All right.
There's like a 4-second delay, and it's mind-numbing. I should have mentioned that at the top of the show, but okay. So yes, we're atheists, but that doesn't mean we believe in nothing. It just means we don't believe in gods.
You don't believe in God.
Any god.
I don't. So what I don't understand is this: if you don't believe in God, or you don't believe in pretty much anything.
No, that's not.
Okay, well, so you believe in yourselves or something, or nature. Or
I believe in almost everything that you probably believe in, except for God.
Right. Well, that's my point. If you don't believe in God, then what's the point in breathing another breath? Is it so that you can build a house before you go to the nothingness, or is it so you can have like like accomplish something in this life? I mean, if there's no point after your life, then what's the point in breathing another breath? Why don't you just slit your wrists right now?
Because this life is the only one I'll have. So I need to live my life, and then when I'm died, that was my one shot. So why would I waste the only life I have?
Yeah, Jason, do you think that when you're dead, you're going to live forever? Hello?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So you're going to, after you die, you're going to go on to live forever, and it's going to be, I presume, a better life?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Doesn't that make this existence pretty meaningless? And wouldn't it be better to kill yourself now and go on to the one that lives forever?
No.
Why not?
No, because I don't think that this is meaningless. I think that it's a lesson. I have to accomplish some certain goal or something, or evolve, mature in the right way.
But if you're going to live for 50 billion years, let's not even make it infinite. If you live for 50 billion years, what difference does the first 70 make? Why not chop that first 70 off at 25?
Go on to the real
and go on to the real life.
Maybe I haven't accomplished what I have to accomplish to evolve farther from you.
Why would you need to evolve? I mean, if a 5-year-old dies, don't they get to live forever?
I'm not sure. You're not sure. I'm not sure. Nobody really knows what happens with the 5-year-old.
Right.
The 5-year-old. The 5-year-old.
So if we agree that nobody really knows what happens after you die, then why would anybody kill themselves? The mere fact that I'll be dead doesn't change the fact that taking another breath means, hey, guess what? I took another breath. I lived another day. I enjoyed another day. I grew as an individual. I helped the planet.
And here's the thing. There's almost limitless species on the planet that breathe another breath that don't believe in a God.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're enjoying their lives. They have a will to survive. I mean, my cats enjoy their lives, and as far as I know, they don't believe in a God.
An infinite afterlife makes this life meaningless. Period. It's simple math.
Your cats are considered gods in some religions, so why would they worry about that if they're gods anyway?
Okay.
Well, some religions, human beings would be considered gods.
If you can't even figure out which mythology you want to run with on this, then I'm not going to bother. But thanks. Is it Alan?
The religion was distorted to create confusion, because if you have confusion, then that's the whole, that's the work of the. I mean, it's always going to be the battle between the forces of good and evil, no matter what.
Hello?
Hello?
Is this Alan?
Yeah.
You're on the air.
You're on the air.
I can barely hear you. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see you now. Hey. Nice to be with y'all.
So turn down your television.
I mean, I see the show every time I come up to Austin.
We can't hear Alan.
Yeah. We can't hear you.
Just letting the crew know we can't hear Alan.
Oh, I was just having a conversation.
Well, I tell you what, you go have that conversation, and then you can call us back when you have a question for us that doesn't waste all of our time. It seems that your question was, I don't get how you don't believe in God. It's really simple. Do you believe in the Loch Ness Monster? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe in transdimensional universe-building sky pixies? The reason you don't believe in anything, the reason that you don't believe in any individual thing is because there's not sufficient evidence to justify belief. With the claims about the existence of a God, despite the fact that I used to, once upon a time, believe, I now see no reason to believe that a God exists. No evidence. And what I'm curious about is, if you do, if your belief is something that you think is rational, that it is based on evidence, and not just a faith-based assumption that makes you feel good, I'd love to know what it is. What rational evidence do you have that a God exists? Is it, because if you just tell me that it's, I hope that a God exists, or I'm playing the safe bet, or I really want there to be an afterlife, okay, great. I want to win the lottery. I want to be surrounded by naked strippers. Naked, that's redundant. Cheerleaders.
Well, no, a stripper isn't initially naked.
Well, yeah. I said that just so that all you fine, good Christian folks can say, I told you he was an immoral atheist. Look at that, thinking about sex all the time. Hey, guess what? you probably think about sex more than I do. And if the preachers that are on TV are any indication as to how perverse some of you are, you win hands down. I'm vanilla. I am vanilla compared to some of you guys.
Hey, we got John back.
Wait, is John back? Oh, now that's
now
loud.
we can hear you.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? Can you hear me again?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, I just wanted to tell y'all, am I live right now?
You're live.
All right, I just wanted to tell y'all, hey, man, you know, I'm getting tired of people calling y'all up looking to pick fights with y'all. You know what I mean?
But I want to have discussions. It's not about picking fights. You know, while I appreciate
you guys do what y'all do, and I give y'all props. You know what I mean? Like, people don't, like, I mean, we don't have all the answers to all the questions, and if we did, wouldn't you really want to just kill yourself anyway? I mean, seriously.
I wouldn't want to kill myself no matter what the case was.
You know what I mean? I mean, like, it's just like, I'm just saying, like, I mean.
I can say this, though, and I've said it before. I wouldn't want to live forever.
Exactly, and I don't have all the time on the earth anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Because that kind of infinite life diminishes it. But I'd like to live about as close to forever as possible without going over. But anyway, I got to let you go because we're about out of time. So thanks a lot for the call, John. I don't know that, really quickly, since it's up on the screen, after the show's over, we're on for another minute or so. We go, or is it, oh, whatever. We go for dinner at El Arroyo. The address is up on the screen. We'll be down there around 5 o'clock. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to join us. If you called on the phone today and wanted to, you know, continue the conversation, that's fine. But if you're coming down to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. And you can also email TV@atheist. I did that backwards. I need to start over here. TV@atheist-community.org. I got it so good the other day, and now it's all backwards. So there's like 90 seconds left, and go ahead, Ruben. You got 10 seconds. Hello, Ruben?
It's quiet.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
There he is.
You got 10 seconds.
Yeah, Ruben. This is Ruben.
Okay.
Yeah, at one show a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that you were a minister somewhere.
No. I gotta let you go. There's a minute left, but I'll answer you offline. I was never a minister. I am, in fact, ordained from like the online Universal Life Church, which you can go do yourself in about a minute and a half. I was studying with the intent to be a minister. I was never actually a minister anywhere. So I don't think I've misrelayed that information, but if I have, I apologize. There is the Atheist Experience crew who's worked on like the new graphics, and there they are. Woo! We'll be back again next week. Please join us at El Arroyo. Stop by the website, get more information. Take care, be safe, think, and enjoy life.